economic improvement and prosperity in the community of Lafayette as a whole. In the 2014 legislative session, the North Louisiana Redevelopment Board was created, addressing blighted properties and the overall upkeep within District 44. Representative Pierre has also committed to advancing the upper and lower levels of the education systems in Louisiana, expanding tourism, and establishing positive relationships within Lafayette and the surrounding metro areas. Representative Pierre serves on the Transportation Committee, the House Select Leadership Committee, and the Select Committee on Hurricane Recovery. He is a member of the Acadiana delegation, the Democratic Caucus, and was recently elected chairman of the Legislative Black Caucus. Representative Pierre attended high school at Holy Rosary Institute and received his Bachelor of Science degree in marketing from Southern University. He is currently the dual enrollment specialist with South Louisiana Community College. Representative Pierre.
Thank you, and thank you for allowing me to come today to speak to you all. It's been a very busy session thus far, but we look forward to visiting with you all throughout this session. Thank you, and it's an honor of Black History Month. Let's start with some history of Black people serving in the Louisiana legislature. Following the Civil War, many African Americans were elected to the legislature, which led to one of them, Senator Pinckney Benton Stewart Pinchback, briefly rising to the governorship of Louisiana when the House of Representatives impeached Governor Henry Warmoth in 1870. Governor Pinchback served for 43 days, and just last year, the Louisiana Legislative Black Caucus established the Pinchback Legacy Breakfast in his honor. After the federal government ended Reconstruction in 1877, there was a 90-year break before New Orleans resident elected Ernest Dutch Moriel to the House in 1967. Our numbers slowly grew, and in 1977, the 10 Black House and Senate members, the Reverend Avery Alexandria, Diane Bajois, Sidney Bartholomew, Louis Charbonnet III, Nick Connor, Joseph Delpit Jr., Alphonse Jackson, Johnny Jackson Jr., Thomas Jasper, Richard Turnley Jr., founded the Louisiana Legislative Black Caucus. The caucus successfully pushed reapportionment legislation to create more minority districts, and around the state currently there are 36 caucus members, 26 of the 105 member House, and 10 in the 39 member Senate. Despite those successes, you can see the disparity. 33% of the people of Louisiana are Black, and yet only 25% House districts are represented by people that look like me. And so, this year, in this redistricting session, we are working to create more minority districts in this session. Redistricting is about reassessing representation based on new information. And our new information is that Black people comprise of 33% of the population of Louisiana. And so all maps should justify and reflect this reality. Not just congressional maps, but also Senate, House, the Supreme Court, and Bessie maps. While we go through this process over the next 14 days, we need to remember that redistricting is about creating opportunity for people of Louisiana to be represented by candidates of their choice. As a democracy dictates, the opportunity may not only translate into a slam dunk or a sure vote, but it doesn't have to. All that opportunity has to do, and all that is required to do under the Voting Rights Act, is exist and give people hope. And that is what the Black Caucus intend to fight for: the hope for fair representation and the opportunity to build equal and just representation in the state of Louisiana. Our mission as a caucus is to elevate the quality of life for African Americans in Louisiana, and we plan to continue to meet that mission by focusing on the following goals: demanding a thorough investigation and accountability of the state police to ensure that what happened to Ronald Green and the pain endured by his family will not happen again. Creating a second majority African American congressional districts, increasing representation in all other maps to fairly mirror the population shifts over the last 10 years in Louisiana. Expanding Voting Rights Act, passing police and criminal justice reform, including qualified immunity, the expungement of public records to remove criminal convictions, helping the formerly incarcerated to find employment opportunities, and to reduce recidivism, apply retroactive justice to those serving time for non-unanimous juries, enhancing historically Black colleges and universities, improving employment opportunities, eliminating Jim Crow laws, increasing minority business opportunities, increasing teachers' pay, helping Louisiana indigent families throughout expanding educational and economic opportunities, including the strong family tax credit, and access to adequate health care. Developing drug rehabilitation programs, finding ways to fight increasing crime rate, assisting African American farmers and landowners, fighting against abolishing the affirmative action and minority set-aside, opposing the unfair mandate that requires only public high school students to pass an exit exam as a prerequisite to begin the awarded to become or to receive an awarded diploma. Governor Pinchback once said, "We are an element of strength and wealth, too powerful to be ignored by the American people. All we need is a just appreciation." That just appreciation is exactly what the Black Caucus continue to strive for. Thank you.
So we're looking for minority majority districts, but every one of the plans that is the one that you'll be voting on tomorrow, this basically keeps the status quo. The Senate plan has actually dropped a black majority district, and the House plans all look to be doing the same thing. What is the Black Caucus going to be doing about that?
That is very unfortunate that after 10 years, with a 33% increase in the black population, that those districts are not drawn accordingly. The Black Caucus will be working diligently to ensure that those districts, or additional districts, are placed. And it's our hope that our colleagues know and understand where we're trying to go.
Sir, for those of us who are not at the Capitol every day, what would the process be? Say, would there be like an alternative map that would move as a substitute in the House or Senate? So if you would explain a bit of the process going forward.
There are additional bills that have been proposed. Two bills that's going to be proposed today in the House that includes additional minority districts. It is our hope that those bills will move out of the process The speaker also has a bill that's also part of that agenda, and there are 3 bills that's on the House side. We know that only 1 moved out of the Senate last week, and 3 will be proposed today on the House side.
Sir, have you spoken with NAACP or other advocacy groups about litigation?
There are several advocacy groups that have sent some proposals and presented to us, but no information on litigation at this time.
I've spoken to several members of the Black Caucus who have suggested that there could be room for compromise of accepting some of these maps with the status quo, keeping 1 minority-majority district, in exchange for an enormous amount of support for a Democrat bill in the regular session. Is that something that the caucus is considering? Is that something you could get behind?
That is not something that I'm aware of that have transpired. I have no clue that no one has discussed that with me.
You mentioned Ronald Green a moment ago. It's now been leaked out through the Associated Press that the contents, at least some of the contents of the meeting that the Legislative Black Caucus had last week with Governor Edwards, to include saying that he was shouted down, that there were profanities uttered toward him. Can you go into what you feel the relationship now is between the Legislative Black Caucus and Governor Edwards, and do you in any way condone those reports that were in that Associated Press article, particularly the use of profanity toward any sitting governor?
The relationship is great with the governor. We're very comfortable in the decisions that the governor has made based on a routine text that he received. We're real comfortable with that. We do know that there are further investigation that is going to occur. We're confident that once the investigation is complete, then justice will be served for the Green family.
What would an ideal redistricting map look like for the Black Caucus?
It's got to be a balanced approach to ensure that it covers the 33% that I mentioned earlier, that ensures that within the population areas, the highly population areas, there is representation. That I would say would be an ideal approach that we can get behind, and that's what we're hoping that transpires.
What are you seeing now in the legislature? What are the maps looking like right now?
There are several maps that was just dropped on Friday. I only had privy to my district. We have looked at several of the maps. Some of them is status quo. Some of them is to improve more district in some areas, but there still have not been any collaboration on where we're going to be on these maps.
When some of these status quo maps were proposed, a lot of the reasons given were things such as to keep together, quote unquote, communities of interest. But are these maps in fact about keeping together communities of interest, or is it simply racism?
Well, I can tell you that if the population has increased, then there needs to be more representation. And I think that because of the increase in population, my colleagues should understand that there needs to be more people representing them. It's not about who you are or what you are. It's about representation for where you are and the amount of people that we have.
I'm going to follow back up on your commentary about the governor receiving a routine text. He also revealed in that news conference last week that he didn't learn anything different about the nature of the Ronald Green matter until, now the text was sent in May the 10th of 2019, and he contends he did not learn anything different until approximately September the 10th of 2020, which would be a span of 16 months. And he said he learned of a different version by having read it from a post that quite likely was found off Louisiana. So do you accept him at his word that he did not learn anything different during those 16 months about the Ronald Green matter?
I accepted what he said, and I think the governor has done everything he possibly can to ensure that justice is served for that Green family. I think that further investigation will show that. You've seen it in the federal investigation that all of what was said was unfounded from the governor. So I'm confident that what the governor has presented to us is exactly what transpired in those emails.
Thank you, sir.
I don't know how I'm gonna phrase this, but I've been in 75 years old and I follow politics all the time. And when they started this majority black districts and districts, and when they gerrymandered and they come up with these, I have a lot of friends of mine in the black community said they lost power. Because when you have a majority of white districts, they used to, you know, have a good portion of black constituents. And then sometimes they got forgotten. What are your views on that?
Well, you know, the population shifts, and it's been 10 years since we've had some redistricting, and there should be representation in the black community by the representatives. And I believe that it should happen. Look at what the count, the census count shows it. So that's pretty much what I think will happen and needs to happen.
Where would you like to see another one of these districts added?
Well, there's a lot of different people that are concerned. There's New Orleans is concerned about a district there. There is several other areas that would like to see districts, but I'm not, privy to where exactly we want to place those districts will be placed, and it's all depending upon what the census states.
Different topic. You had mentioned the high school exit exam, and for public high school students, is the goal to get rid of the exam, or to have other, like charter schools and private schools, everybody take the exam, or what?
Well, whatever the process is, make it equitable across the board. If one has to take the exam, then I think everyone should take the exam, and that's pretty much what I think should happen in that part.
Representative Ted James now holding his new position, and things kind of changing for the Black Caucus. What are you hoping to see in this next year?
That we continue to fight for the needs of the communities that we serve, continue to deal with the ill wills of education, health care, and the things that our caucus and the people in our community are lacking is indeed something that we want to continue to strive for. And I think the caucus is on the right track for that mission.
So if you could summarize, you have a long list of goals that you shared with us. Could you kind of tell us what the top 5 are, and maybe one specific thing that you'd like to accomplish?
Well, of course, as I've said before, education is always the forefront of our mission, and that is to ensure that all of our kids are educated. Healthcare, with the pandemic, those things have been an issue in the African American community, underserved areas, healthcare initiatives that are needed. Those are 2 of the things. And of course, the crime. Crime is a major issue that we've got to get behind and slow it down. Not only in my community, but all the communities across the state are dealing with the crime problems. And of course, helping to improve our historically black colleges and give them the things that they need to produce. And of course, improving employment opportunities. You know as well as I do that the current state is very difficult. The minimum wage is way below what we would like to see it. I think we need to improve the minimum wage for those that are unemployed. And those are just some of the things that I think are important to the caucus, and it's always been important to the caucus. And that's what we want to ensure that happens.
You have some lofty goals. What are you going to do to achieve them?
Well, we're going to continue to work with our colleagues to ensure that those things are important to the people that we serve. It's important that not only as a black caucus, a Democrat caucus, and a Republican caucus, we all know and understand the core scope and mission of this great state. And having an educated workforce is very important. So hopefully we can all come together to ensure that our workforce is educated and able to deal with the many things that's going to come before us in the coming years.
You will be voting on Shaq Snyder's congressional bill tomorrow, which is the status quo. They need 53 votes. What do you do to stop 53 votes? Because it looks like they have the Republicans standing still.
Well, we're going to continue to have some discussions. We're going to be meeting with caucus members to ensure that we are not going to vote on anything that is status quo. And I think that it's important because it does not relate to the population that we serve. So we are indeed going to be working to ensure that that bill is not moved any further than where it is.
I guess I'm asking how, other than trying to persuade people that have not been persuaded over the last, history of Louisiana.
It's going to be indeed a challenge, but we're going to work hard to ensure that this status quo does not happen in the House of Representatives.
Is there talks of walkouts or?
We have not had any discussions on walkouts, but we will be having meetings to discuss what's in that bill.
Now, Representative, are you anticipating a gubernatorial veto if the plan is not of your liking and of the governor's liking?
Well, we're hoping that there is a veto. We hope that if the things that are not there that should be there in that bill, the populations are not justified, that the governor vetoes it, and that's what we're hoping that should happen.
Now, 10 years ago, Representative, I'm looking at the 2010 census, the population in Louisiana for black citizens was 32.8%, which is almost 1/3. And yet the Black Caucus was amenable to the plan that went into place that put North Baton Rouge and Cedric Richmond's district at the time. What has changed?
Well, I'm not exactly sure, but I tell you, it's a whole new group of people that are there, a whole new understanding that there are needs in our communities, and we need to make sure that we are represented in our districts. And it is my hope that everyone that is in the caucus see and understands the importance of that.
And I know that this number has been changed legally in the national legislation over time, but what is a majority black district? Is it 52%? Is it 55%? Or is it 65%? And isn't that an obstacle to coming to an agreement on an expansion of that number?
Well, those percentages, it varies. It depends on where we're located. I can't give you an exact answer on the numbers on that particular situation.
But incumbents tend to favor larger numbers. Is that true?
I didn't quite hear you.
Incumbents tend to favor larger numbers.
Well,
Is that not true?
I've seen in the past that there have been some incumbents, but not all. Some understand that 55 is justifiable. Some 53, 52. But it depends on the individual, and I'm not exactly sure what these incumbents will want.
First of all, I want to say it's an honor and a privilege to witness you being given to the extent here today as the leader of the Black Caucus. I know me and you have kind of made our ways around the Capitol, etc. And I have to say you have been a good Samaritan in my life, regardless about color. And I know there's, from you carrying bills, having meetings with the governor, other legislators, etc., calling on people to come forward with what I would call a smoking gun. But in regards to compared to the Ronald Green State Police, in that we, with all the help that you, Senator Mills, and others have done, we have established what I would call the smoking gun. But before that we have now Colonel Davis, before we had other colonels there that I feel, and the way State Police was in meetings where they, state level agencies would come out and say, look, this is the truth, but yet they would refuse to document that information. Do you find that now with the new leadership at state police, things may change, and when those smoking guns are brought out, like videos, testimony, et cetera, do you think they're gonna handle it different than previous colonels and other leaders in state level agencies?
Well, there's a whole lot to answer, Billy, but I can't speak for the colonel, but I tell you, we have confidence in the current colonel, and we really feel that, he has tried to come in and make some changes. You've seen some of the changes that has occurred. It is my hope that we can get a handle on this kinds of stuff that's going on, and hopefully, at the end of the day, justice will be served for the Green family.
I'm just going to broach this. Obviously, there is some sentiment out there to embark upon the I process being impeachment. If it's hypothetical, if that scenario makes it through the House and we're to land in the Senate where the trial would take place, do you believe Governor Edwards would have 100% backing of the Legislative Black Caucus to block any impeachment efforts?
Well, you've seen recently the results from the federal government that found that there was no wrongdoing in the governor. So, with all of the information that we receive, I truly believe that we would definitely be behind the governor, because thus far there hasn't not been anything to justify that the governor did anything wrong.
As the new chair of the Legislative Black Caucus, to me that means you look out for the black people. A heck of a lot of black people live in the very shadows of the huge and numerous oil and gas and petrochemical facilities in Cancer Avenue. For years now, I've taken to the Black Caucus, to the Democratic Caucus, and to other members of the legislature the need to appropriately amend or repeal a previously little-known statute that has been on the books since before my daddy was born, but which you won't find a single reported decision dealing with. Many members of the legislature didn't know it existed. Many district attorneys didn't know it existed. Will you promise me, sir, that you will look into Louisiana Revised Statute 3051, and if appropriate, do your best to see that that statute is appropriately amended or repealed? I've given you information on it too. Of course, some of your predecessors say they never got the information.
Thank you, sir. And if you provide the information to me, I will definitely look into it.
Thank you, sir.
On the issue of crime that you mentioned, has you as an individual or as a representative have any thoughts on the family structure in Louisiana? What you could do legislatively or as an individual to assist with that problem?
I'm a father of 3 boys. 3 of my sons attend college, and I work diligently to ensure that they're doing the right things. And we try to model, hopefully, what I do with all families, but it's difficult because families do have challenges. And it's my hope that through the caucus, we can help deal with some of the challenges that they have. There are kids today that don't even have a place to eat. And hopefully as a caucus that we can help provide some services that are needed. There's a serious concern with mental health. There are people that are incarcerated that have mental illness, and you've seen from the list of things that I mentioned that we want to definitely do some things to address that. So those are just some of the things that we want to try to do to help families that are dealing with struggles. And what happens is that the alternative sometimes is crime. You've got people that are incarcerated because they can't get their meds. And it's unfortunate that there's a serious mental health illness problem. But definitely as a caucus member, to answer that question, we're going to hopefully try to address those issues in the coming years.
The politics locally, state, and national, friction seems to be growing exponentially. What's your opinion of what's going on?
It is very unfortunate that we have so much dissension in both Washington, D.C., Louisiana, and other states. It's unfortunate. It is my hope that we can begin to collaborate and work for the betterment of our state and our country. I am definitely on board to doing just that, but you see that there's a lot of dissension. And as I said before, in order for us to do that, we've all got to understand the needs and concerns of that individual. And right now we're dealing with redistricting. It is very important that everyone understands that there is a population growth in our state, and it needs to have justified representation. That is simple and very easy for all of us to understand. And hopefully that our colleagues and everyone can get a hold of it and work with us to make that happen.
In the bill that's being passed out of H&GA today, it's the Speaker's bill, and he wants to move Kenny Cox's district to New Orleans. Is there any other districts in North Louisiana, many of those that need to have additional people that ought to be like a Daniel district, New Orleans instead of a majority black district?
I haven't seen the bill. We remember the bill was dropped on Friday. We haven't seen all what he's trying to do, but there is some concerns that we indeed have to address, and hopefully we can address those things in the next couple of days.
Including whether or not Kenny Cox's district stays in North Louisiana?
That is exactly correct.
As a follow-up to the question asked about the divisiveness in our country, this is something that I wrote this morning, and I think it would be a good follow-up question to ask. Recently, there was an article in the Baton Daily newspaper and The Advocate, and I thought of how myopic it was and looked up the meaning of the word to increase my understanding. And its meaning intensified my concern that the United States is becoming a country driven by a myriad of myopic views that produce policies and laws that divide us rather than unite. Of course, our president's main theme is to unite us together, all people, black, white, red, and yellow. Do you think that's a problem? Because caucuses divide us. We don't get to communicate with each other.
Well, I think that is untrue here in Louisiana. I think that we work diligently to unite one another. We're dealing with an issue now, and that's redistricting. And I think at the end of the day that we can come to a consensus on what's important for the people we serve. So those kinds of things are difficult for me to understand, but at the same breath, there are people out there that want to destroy this great state. This is a great state that we live in. And I think that we have a golden opportunity to unite it. This pandemic set us back some. And in order for us to move forward, we've got to be able to work together to achieve the things that we need for our great state.
Are there any more questions? If not, thank you very much.
Thank you.